And we are live. Welcome to this week's Flippinar. This is Ty, aka the Flip Man. I have my friend here, Tom, who is a longtime vet in the real estate biz, more so on the commercial side of real estate. Obviously, he's done residential. Also, he does whatever he can get his hands on. That's why his YouTube channel is called Flip Anything USA, which you can go there and subscribe and dive into Tom's many videos. So definitely do that. So if you're in the actual chat, this is your time to ask questions pretty much about any part of real estate. So Tom, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great. Thanks for having me on, Ty. Really like your channel and enjoy the stuff that you do. I like your enthusiasm, and I like that you're helping people make money. That's pretty cool. But no, things have been good. I've been doing a lot of new stuff, and I just bought a house on Lake. This was an unusually good deal, but I just bought a house, 80 grand. It was worth at least 250. And I've got that on my channel. I'm kind of renovating it a little bit. I just poured a driveway yesterday or a couple days ago.
Okay.
It's interesting because, mine's Flip Anything. And I get a lot of younger people interested in real estate and stuff like that. And a lot of people, of course, are intimidated. But, I started by kind of wheeling and dealing cars in the beginning and, anything of value. And like you had me on before, I talked about selling candy at the high school. They were the rich kids. They were the rich kids. But yeah, I think it's, I think people should understand that, and I say this all the time, that buying and selling real estate, it's not a whole lot different than a car. People feel more intimidated by it, but when you buy a car, what do? You got to go down to the DMV, right? The Department of Motor Vehicles, and let them pass the title to you. Yeah, guess what? House is the same thing. Buying a house, you go down to the title office and they pass the title to you. So when I put it in that kind of perspective, I think it puts people at ease that haven't quite taken that leap yet, I don't know how you feel about it.
Well, yeah, a lot of people, I guess there are a number of reasons, just from the number of people that I interact with on a daily basis and some of their concerns about getting started. A lot of people that contact me, they're very knowledgeable, but for whatever reason, they haven't either taken action or the action that they've taken hasn't produced any results. And I always try to preach to them because you can get a lot of information from a lot of different directions. Whatever you're doing, you need to be committed to it and persistent, for an extended period of time. 6 months is not a long period of time when you're talking about real estate, just because of the opportunity that it could prevent as far as a payday. I see people have already started asking some questions here, so we'll just make this easy for you and I. We'll just both get our opinions on them and we'll go from there. We're just doing this for the folks or whatever. Again, you can find his Tom information. You can see it here on the screen. You can find his channel at Flip Anything USA if you want to subscribe to his channel, if you like what he has to say on some of these questions. So I'm going to read the questions, Tom, and you answer first, and then I'll follow up with you.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to throw this cat out of my office real quick, but I'm listening.
All right, that's cool. Go ahead. My partner and I are waiting for our bandit sign, and we'll be posting them in Long Beach, California market. Do you know wholesalers who run the business with a partner? Well, there are a lot of husband and wife teams out there, obviously. I've actually have an interview with a husband and wife team out of North Carolina. It's one of my older videos from some students. And then have my two guys out of the Atlanta area where they have done a deal together. They were in an interview. So you can check out those couple of interviews there. But basically the question was, Tom, is having a partner to, which my channel is mostly about wholesaling. So, but they're asking how useful or do they need a partner to do this? And me personally, I'm whatever, you're obviously going, as I mentioned, you're going to have husband and wife team. So that's a partnership in itself. But it's not necessary to have a partner. Let me just say that. If that works for you, then so be it. But I know it'll be difficult for me to have a partner doing this. Maybe another business, but doing this. But I'll partner on deals, but we're not committed to every deal, if that makes sense. But what would be your 2 cents on that, Tom?
Well, the deal with partnerships is there's got to be a reason for it, because there ain't no reason to split money if you don't need to. And so I don't really like partnerships. So when I get a partner, it's because I need money, or maybe it's because they have something I want, and that might be the deal. And now they're going to be my partner because they got the deal. Okay. And so that's why I always emphasize the most important thing is get the deal, because you get the deal, getting the money is easy. You can hit me up, you can hit Ty up, you can hit anybody up. Yeah, I mean, the deals are hard to find. That's what you're going to learn how to find from Ty and myself. That's what's hard to do. And it does take commitment. And it's like you don't learn to play guitar in 6 months, and like anything, you gotta practice. But so back to the partnerships, there's got to be a reason for it. Somebody's got to have strengths that I don't have. That might be money sometimes. Usually I'm the money guy now, but when I was younger, of course, I'm looking for somebody that's got money. And then I started to realize, hell, I'll just flip it, and without even owning it. Now I don't even need the money. I just need somebody that's got money and that wants the deal. So that's how I feel about it anyways.
All right. We'll move on to the next one, dear. Texas Twin 24 says, what marketing strategies are working best for you? Now we're dealing with houses. Tom he'll have a totally different approach to it, the way he finds deals. But dealing with houses, obviously, I'm a huge bandit sign guy. Direct mail works on the internet, but I'm more attracted to bandit signs personally for houses anyway, is because just the number of people you can reach for a very small amount of money with large amounts of traffic, eyeballs. The reason billboards exist, they may not be as effective as they used to be, but the reason billboards exist is because they're taking advantage of large amounts of traffic, just vehicle, pedestrian, whatever traffic. So same thing with billboards, it's just in a smaller format, and you just put out many more, but you can also be a lot more targeted. Now, I think it was one of the question and answers that I did last week or whatever, but that's what works for me. You don't have to a lot of people don't ever do bandit signs. They do deals strictly through realtors, or they'll do deals through direct mail, and they don't do bandit signs. I'm just telling you that as far as my experience, when you're dealing with residential trying to find deals, there's nothing more effective. So Tom may have a different outlook because he deals mainly with commercials. So how he goes about finding his deals or deals coming to him is going to probably totally.
Actually, I got a question for you. I'll be honest. I've never used a bandit sign in my life, and I see them all the time. And I'm tempted to call these guys just to see if they got a deal. But when you say you're using bandit signs, if you could only use a bandit sign for buying or selling, if you had to pick one, you'd only get either buyers or you could only get sellers. What would you say you would want?
Well, I'm going to automatically target sellers, but I also use bandit signs for buyers. But you'll get, let me just say this. If you're using bandit signs for buyers or sellers, you're going to get a lot more calls on the buyer side, because as I always preach, it is not difficult to give away money. If you got a great deal and you do an effective job of letting people know it exists, they will call and beg you not to tell anyone else about it.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying? So So for as far as bandit signs, sellers, it's a shotgun approach as far as that form of marketing. But again, for how inexpensive it is, it reaches a lot of people, and it's just a numbers game from there. So just to answer your question, Tom.
Well, because the number of bandit signs I see, and I'm going to say in my mind, just thinking about it, not scientifically, but I'm going to guess about 30% of them say, I buy houses. And the other 70% say 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 160,000 or whatever. You know what I mean? It says something like that, So I get that it's more powerful of a tool to locate buyers. And it kind of goes to what I was saying, which is finding deals are hard, finding buyers are easy. And that kind of the bandit sign, from what you're telling me, it kind of proves it out for you too.
Oh, your phone will ring off the hook if you put a property out there for sale, and it's cheap. Now it has to be cheap or whatever, but your phone will ring off the hook. It's all types of calls now. You'll get people calling that, hey, do y'all do rent to own? Do y'all rent properties? But you'll get what you're looking for, which is cash buyers, if that's what you're targeting. So, but we'll move on to the next question here. Let me see here. What market is hottest? Okay, I guess what he's saying is we will start with bandit sign and we'll attempt purchasing lists and sending yellow letters postcard. I guess he was more or less comment for someone else. Okay. Text Twin 24 asks another question. Do you prefer wholesaling or buy and hold? The true way to get rich is buying and holding. As far as having that stream of cash flow that's coming in every month, and it just needs to be managed. Now, wholesaling, as Tom has been, that's somewhat how he started, more or less probably by mistake, more so than anything. That'll get you out of a situation, or let me just put it like it, that'll change your financial situation, in my opinion, where you can get to where you can buy and hold. Now, if you're, I guess, savvy enough and understand how you can actually start out buying and holding from the beginning, because you can get people to own or finance stuff to you. And sometimes with nothing down, depending on, how creative you are at structuring the deal. But at the end of the day, buying and hold is how you build true wealth. Now, you can make a lot of money wholesaling, don't get me wrong. But as far as the appreciation of a property, the cash flow, some tax benefits you can take advantage of, all of that apply. So Tom, what are your thoughts on that, wholesaling or buying and holding?
Well, one of my earliest mentors was a guy named Hank. I won't say his last name. Hank Booker. That was his name. Anyways, this guy was great. He was a fireman, and he worked his butt off. I mean, he had 3 days on as a fireman, and then the rest of the days he was off, and he would look for property deals. He also did a little bit of remodeling and such. And, the bottom line is, in the beginning, you need money. You flip, you turn, you get cash, then you buy. And then at some point, you have to ask yourself, when you have a property that you're not selling, if I have a property, and everybody gets a little emotional, everybody gets attached a little bit, I think, to property. You kind of feel good owning stuff. But at some point, you got to ask yourself, if you don't sell it, then you're buying it. Bottom line. If you're sitting on a property that you can sell, say for 200 grand or 100 grand or 50 grand, doesn't matter what it is. If you don't sell it, then you're kind of saying, I'm buying it. If I can sell it for 50,000 and I refuse to, then basically I'm buying it for 50,000. And that's kind of the things you got to ask yourself. Would I pay 50 for it? Or would I like to get rid of it because I bought it for 30 or 35 and I made 15? Wouldn't I be better off to, these are the things you weigh out for yourself. And for me, I'd buy property. Sometimes I kind of do a little mother-in-law thing to make it a little better, for somebody to, to get more cash flow on it or whatever. And I would simply, somebody would buy it and maybe take advantage of the mother-in-law part of the deal, having like a second unit or whatever, utilize it how they did. But you have to decide. I mean, like when I bought my very first property, somebody offered me 20,000 more for it than I paid for it. And I was thrilled that I made 20 grand, or I could, but I had to keep the building. It was a building, and I had all my tools in it. I had to keep it. But that set the fire off in me that I go, man, I could have just made $20,000. And I used to buy lots, and I used to build houses too. And I'd buy lots, and then I'd start building houses. And then before you know, by the time I got the house built, half of the appreciation of the house was that the lot went up. So I could have just not built the house and just held the property for 3 months and sold it and made a real nice margin anyhow, not just on what I, bought it under market for, but additionally what it was worth. So, buy and hold, it's more of a game for the rich. I'm more of a buy and hold guy now. I am. But I still have to ask myself the same questions. And I did give it recently. I sold several $1 million in land and a few $1 million in buildings. And it's because I thought, you know what? If the economy turns, I really don't want to be stuck holding land. And where I could go buy buildings and things that generate income. Even if the economy goes down, I still got rent. So those are it's just math. I tell people it's just math. And nobody knows your pocketbook better than you. You just got to figure out if you can afford to buy and hold or flip. And like I said, old Hank used to tell me, you never get hurt taking a profit. And he's right. You take a profit, you might regret that you sold it a little early or cheap, but guess what? You got the cash in the bank. You're safe.
Hey, obviously, yeah, couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so next question here. Let me see.
Hey, I'll tell you one more quick little thing about Hank before you do that.
All right, go ahead.
He probably had, 40, 50 houses in Los Angeles. And then an earthquake hit. Now, he was carrying notes on those houses. These are houses that he flipped, that he owned mostly outright, or he had seconds on them, okay?
Uh-huh.
When that earthquake hit, what fell down in Los Angeles more than anything was fireplaces. Fireplaces rattle loose, fall down into the house. He had so many houses severely damaged from that earthquake that people stopped paying him on the second. And he had to take property back, and he had to just give up seconds. In other words, he could have just turned those notes too. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it goes to the buy hold thing. If you're holding, and you would expect an earthquake. The problem is in California, they don't really allow earthquake insurance. You got to pay a lot of money for it. You don't have to have it. Most people don't get it. And in that case, it really bit him because he didn't have it, or they didn't have it.
Wow. Let's see the next question here. All right. Well, Tex Win has asked quite a few questions. Let me get to other people here. Damon Brown says, what are prime months for wholesaling? All right.
That's you.
Let me just say, I don't, some cities, and I can't really answer this. They would have to answer this for me, but I don't really look at it like that. As far as what months are prime months for wholesaling, because the business exists because of the motivation of sellers, which normally turn from problems. So problems don't have seasons, if that makes sense. When someone gets a divorce, there's no season for that. When someone dies, there's no season for that. When someone loses their job, they relocate. Tired of being a landlord, there are no seasons for that. So what's better, months? Now, I do like when the time changes in March and we have longer daylight hours, but that's just me personally. That doesn't mean I do more or less deals. Now, you can get more done because you have more daylight hours, but prime months, I can't answer. They're all the same to me, because motivation exists all the time for the reasons that most people will sell for the reasons they'll sell for. It's because They don't view the property as an asset anymore. It's a problem, and you are the problem solver. That's the only reason you're going to get a price that's so cheap that you can actually pass along to a cash buyer to make money. So you may have I want to get your, what your thoughts are on it. Are some months better than others for in your market or your experience?
Well, I don't really consider myself an expert on wholesaling, to be honest, because I do hold more than anything now. I mean, I still flip, but yeah, I do have a little bit, and maybe you agree with me or not, but one thing I have learned over the many years I've been doing this is it's a very good time to be a buyer. November, December, because everybody's preparing for Christmas. Everybody's preparing for vacation. Everybody's preparing for company, or they're preparing to leave town. They're fixing up their house. They're getting carpet in there. They're cleaning up for relatives to come, or they're getting ready to leave town. And it's also something I tell people too. If you ever want to rezone a property, rezone it in November, because hardly anybody will show up to the meetings to oppose you. So anyways, so I do believe there are some aspects to time of the year that do affect sales. So I'm guessing that you're probably going to have fewer buyers right around Christmas time, the month up before it. And it's, and maybe even, I don't know. That would be my guess, but I'm speculating on that. But I do know that there's definitely an effect on, like, when I rent property, and I rent a lot of property. It's rough renting it in November and December, because people either decide they're going to be rented, they're going to be moved into their new place by November, or they're going to do it after the holidays. So there's a little bit of seasonality there, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, definitely with rentals. What I find in December or that time of year, it's not investors, it's not sellers, it's the other part of it, the administration part of it. When you start talking about title companies and closing attorneys, it's hard to get them to do things because either people are rushing to get stuff on the book so they can write it off for the next year, or they're on vacation. So it's a combination of those things that they get really busy, but they're not working nearly as much, during that time. That's been my experience. When wholesaling houses now, like you say, in the rental business, that is a wavy thing because people will change for school zone reasons and all that kind of stuff. So, but that's real estate. It's vast.
But I think it's a great time to be an aggressive bird dogger and a hunter in November and December, only because a certain amount of your competition for deals, they're going to be having the same issues other people are, preparing for Christmas, preparing for this, that, and the other thing. And I remember just being, when I was a lot younger guy, before I had kids, I'd go crazy. I did not like the holidays. I mean, I didn't even like the weekends. I wanted to work every day. So I can imagine that you get around Christmas. I mean, and I know, I'm never not bird dogging. You know what I mean? I'm always. And so I just think there's a little less competition as a buyer around those months too. So I think it's a good time to be a buyer, but not necessarily a seller.
Okay. All right. We'll go to the next question. Kevin Jeter. What's the best strategy for showing a buyer the home you have under contract when it's tenant occupied and you need the seller to be present at the showing? Trying to keep the seller and buyer separated. Well, you gotta let your buyer know your position, and any negotiations on price has to go through you. Condition of the property, history of the property, and so on. Yeah, you can ask the seller or whatever, but you want to be standing right there when those questions are being asked. But your buyer needs to clearly understand, what's the totality of the situation. Now, one of the other things that I'm going to do, I'm going to always do this anyway. Whenever I'll go out, if I have a property under contract, I'll inspect it obviously first myself, but and I'm going to video it and upload it to YouTube. So whenever buyers call, I'm going to send them that video. So that eliminates a lot of unwasted time, because if they still want to see it after the video, then that's when I have my little speech with them. Okay, now I actually still want them to drive by the property before, but sometimes they won't do that, which that's fine, but I will ask for it. But I'm going to make them understand that I'm in a wholesale position. I have it under contract. In order to show this property, because a tenant is there, the seller is going to be there, any price negotiations need to go through me. Now, they still will try to, even though we had a speech, they still may try to do that, but that's why you're there, to make sure things stay in order. So that's part of the issue that people don't get into when they start talking about virtual wholesaling, because they make it seem like it's so easy, assuming that was a virtual wholesale situation. You're at the mercy of the buyer and the seller not going around you at some point. They can just let your contract expire and, do the deal or whatever. So that's part of, one of the things you have to take in consideration when you feel you can't wholesale in your city, but you can wholesale in someone else's city. If you can't wholesale in your city and you're in a decent sized market, it's going to be more difficult to wholesale in another market. And if you can wholesale in another market, you can definitely wholesale in your market, just to make that clear. But so, you understand what the question was there, Tom?
Yeah, I do. And my thought is, I'm big on contracts. And I wonder if you ever played much with a contract, in as much as, kind of like agents do it. If an agent lists your property, they'll they kind of have their clause in you if you have any sale to somebody that they showed the property to. But likewise, it seems like you might be able to contract around that a little bit. Like, I don't know exactly how you structure your deals exactly, Ty, but it's like I say, I don't rest until I have a contract. Once I have a contract, I feel a lot better. You know what I mean?
Well, the contract is, and that's the only reason you have control to be able to do what you're going to do, especially in a wholesale position. But it's possible. It's possible that and I tell people, generally this is not going to happen, because normally you're not going to have a seller and a buyer on the same page to go around you like that. Somebody is normally afraid of the contract and what those possibilities could be, as for it ending up in a courtroom. But it is possible, because you can have a desperate seller and a greedy buyer. Or I just want to push you out of the way. And someone could just simply allow, because you can't make a seller, I'll probably put it like this: the buyer could string you along till your time runs out on your contract, right? And even if he doesn't personally buy it, just because to keep himself out of it, he can send one of his buddies to close on it. You see what I'm saying? How would you ever know that? How would you ever know that?
Well, I'll tell you, it's funny you say that, because I actually danced around a situation like that for years, okay? And in fact, I just put a video on my deal just the other day, talking about how I made over $1 million renting and re-renting a property. And so you can imagine my discomfort when somebody would come to the door of this building that I'm renting. I'm making about $20,000 a month on this thing for years, okay? And so I'm making about $20,000 a month on this deal. And somebody would come to the door and they'd say, you want to sell this property? And I'd come out there and I'd cross my arms. I go, no, I don't ever want to sell this property. I got no interest at all. I'm never going to sell, but I'll take your card. And if ever I do, I'll consider it. Now, what I didn't tell him is that I didn't own it. Because the last thing I need is this guy getting a hold of the owner, okay, and ruining my deal. But I had a lease, so it didn't matter. I took a lease on this thing. But so many times I'd have somebody say, you want to sell this property? And I'd go, nope. And I didn't tell them that I didn't own it. But anyways, but you can understand why.
All right, that's a good one. Let me see here. How do you feel? All right. Now he's asked a lot of questions. I can't. Let me see. I found a property that has long-term tenants. Property needs minimum repairs. Market price is around $100K. Rent is $1K per month. Tenants would like to stay forever. All right, that's really not enough information. Old dog 87. I'm not sure what you're asking. Oh, it says how much is the next question. How much should I offer? All right. Well, again, it's still not enough information because I don't know what the ARV is on the property. I don't know what would the property be worth in excellent condition. You gave us a price of 100K. I'm not sure what you would offer there. Now, the rent on that is 1K. Tommy, could you do anything with that? The rent is 1K. They're asking 100K. It's a single family property.
That meets my minimum profile. The way I am is if I pay $100 a foot, I have to rent it for a minimum of $1 a foot. So in other words, I look at, if I buy a 10,000 square foot building, I have to get $10,000 a month rent for it. That's the minimum I have to get. Okay. And his kind of fits the criteria on that. Because if he's paying $100,000 and he can get $1,000 a month rent, that's an acceptable return. It's not a flip deal to me. That's just like, that ought to be the price that it gets flipped for. I would expect if I was buying that, I'd have to be buying it for probably 70 to 80 grand.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that I could flip it to somebody for 90.95 and they'd be very happy making $1 for every $1,000 that they spent on this property. You follow me?
Okay, so in the wholesale position, if you're the cash buyer and you'll pay 80, basically you say 75, 80 for it. If you're going to pay that, then in the wholesale position, as a wholesaler, you're going to have to get that probably between 50 to 60, maybe 65 in order to pass on something like Tom.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that's a retail deal. That's closer to a retail deal than a flip deal without knowing all the other, details of the property. But just going by the numbers, if you get $1,000 a month on a $100,000 property, that's an acceptable deal for many, many people to buy. That would be comfortable with that even as an investment. Not me. That's like a retail investor. But as a flip guy, as a guy that makes money on property, that wouldn't work for me at all.
Okay. All right. Next question is from KH. I'm not sure what their handle here is here, but it says, what is the protocol for using a lockbox? I have the master key box and will be using it for the first time this weekend. Do you just tell buyers to call when they enter and exit, for example? Well, normally whenever I give out a lockbox code, I generally want to know I'm speaking just from the conversation. I think I'm pretty good at determining if I'm talking to another wholesaler or an actual cash buyer. I think I'm pretty good at determining that. Now I'll give it out to a cash buyer if I'm confident that they are, just from a couple of questions that I'll ask. And normally those questions are, how fast can you close? And normally they're going to do more talking than me, but just from asking that one question and the response that I'm looking for so that we can get a clear title. And so I'll give the code out. I've never had any issues with anyone doing anything to a property. Now, I have had issues with someone taking the key. And I have had issues with that. But normally, whenever I get a key from a seller, I'm going to automatically go and make two extra keys, and then, put one in there in the lockbox. I just automatically do that.
So you're talking about you put a lockbox on a house that you don't own yet.
Mm-hmm.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. See, and the reason for that is time. Just saves you time. Now, and a lot of sellers are not going to give you a key, but it doesn't hurt to ask. And if you do offer a key, then you're going to automatically put a lockbox on it.
No, and that's what I like about you, Ty, because most people wouldn't even think that was possible. Okay, I know it's possible. I do, but I've taken possession and lived, used properties for months before I ever, moved into them. So or before I ever, started paying for them. So, but yeah, that's great. And like I say, everybody needs to understand. Anybody new on this, you got to know there's no rules. Okay, the rules are what you make. You can make a contract to agree to anything. Anything. You can have an 18-month escrow if a seller will agree to it.
If they'll agree to it, yeah. See, earnest money and escrow or whatever is consideration to show good faith, but there's no minimums. You could do a penny in reality or zero. It's just whatever the seller accept. There's no standard contract. A seller and yourself can literally write up a contract on the hood of their car or their kitchen table, as long as you're not performing anything illegal. But right. Just write up a simple contract. I'm buying the property at 123 Main Street for this price. We'll close on this date as is. Both of y'all sign it. That's a contract. Now, obviously, they can get a lot more detail than that, but that's a contract. That would be considered a contract.
No, and like I say, people have this, paralysis by analysis or just fear, and there's nothing to be afraid of. There are no rules. I mean, once in a while, you might make a ridiculous, low offer and they'll laugh at you. I mean, no big deal. But I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's the information you need to know. You want to sell this for X and it's way below market, whatever you're offering, maybe very low. If they say yes, let's sign it up. If they say, oh no, that's way too cheap, say, okay, and you make the best deal you can work out, or at least you know that you can't make a deal. And I'll tell you something, if you work with realtors like I do, and like I said, I just got a nice deal. I just got a $250,000 property for 80 grand. Okay. This is only a week ago. And I did it live on my channel, by the way. But what I was going to say is, if you can't make a deal, like if I can't make a deal buying a property, if this is a property that I want to buy for say 80 or 70, and they insist on 100, but I know it's worth 100, but I just won't pay that. Then what I do is I say, okay, you know what? We can't make a deal. No problem. Hey, I'll spread the word about your property. And then I'll go to an agent that I know that works the area. And maybe it's somebody that's given me a pocket listing and has assisted me. It's an agent that I like. And I say, hey, go talk to Mr. Johnson over here. He wants to sell it. Tell him I sent you. Maybe you get a listing out of it. And then, so now I'm kind of reciprocating maybe what somebody did for me as an agent. But I can't make a deal anyways, because agents are not my friends. I compete with agents. When I contact people in a neighborhood, an agent wants to get in between me and that seller always. And I always want to get buy around the agent. I want to buy direct from the seller. And so anyways, I kind of getting off track here, but my point was if you can't make a deal, consider referring an agent that you like that maybe has helped you find a deal before, and hand them that listing. You're saying, hey, I got a lead for you. And they go over and maybe they make the deal and get the listing agreement. And they get a nice commission because, you helped them, you pointed them to it.
Interesting way of thinking about that. Just pass it on and you'll get it back in, I guess, in a return from them. At some point, they may be able to pass something along to you that you'll be able to wholesale.
Yeah, even if they hadn't done anything for you, they're going to like you and they're going to appreciate and remember you.
Yeah. All right. Sam says, I found a pretty decent house in my city, but they are owned by the city. How do I go about getting the house and wholesaling them? That's going to vary from market to market. If the city owns the property, you start with going to the city and seeing if they're interested in selling. And if they are, what's the process? I can almost assure you it's going to be very difficult to wholesale that property the traditional way when you're dealing with governmental individuals. It's going to be very difficult. Now, you can buy it, but wholesaling it may be very difficult. I know in Birmingham, Now, we're made up a lot of municipalities, but if someone said they were from Hoover, they were in LA, they would say they were from Birmingham. But we're made up a lot of suburbs, municipalities. But with dealing with the city of Birmingham, if they own the property, I wouldn't even waste my time trying to wholesale it because I know what's coming. You know, maybe different in your city and maybe just as simple as if there was a private seller. I doubt it. You may want to speak to that, Tom, when a municipality owns a property.
Well, I can give you my experience. I bought an entire elementary school once. Okay. Okay. And I still own it, actually. And this is how they did it. They put the property up for sale. And the way it worked was you had to submit an offer. You had to show that you had the capacity to purchase it. And then you also had to submit your offer blind. In other words, you fill out, send in your offer. They take the offers and they consider the top three. They have a board meeting. They look at the top three and they still usually pick the one that offers the most money, unless it's like an extended long escrow. And so, because this is what happened to me on this, is I went in and I think I was offering like $1.1 million for this thing. And these other guys were offering more. And then, I didn't get it. Then 60 days later, I always keep an eye on it. I want to know that thing closed. I keep an eye, I call. It falls out. Okay. Another round of bidding comes up. Delays the deal 2 months, comes up again for bidding. I go in and I bid on that again. I'm in the top three again. It falls out. In other words, the guy that they gave the deal to did not close the escrow. So they have to start over each time. Well, on the very last time,
wow,
I go and bid again. And now I'm in the top three, but I wrote a thoughtful note. And I said, stop taking the highest offer and take the one from the guy that will close, okay? That's what I wrote them. That simple of a note. And so they got it, and they called me back, and they said, it's between you and this other guy. They go, but Tom, they go, this is a group. They represent, what's the drug company? Not Walgreens. What's the other one? Eckerd?
CVS, Eckerd's, Rite Aid.
I want to say it was Eckerd, but it might have been CVS, but I think it was Eckerd. And it was perfect. It was 3 acres. It was perfect for them. A little over 3 acres. So anyways, I said, you know what? Just take the one that's going to close. Where were these guys 4 months ago, 2 months ago? And they say, well, you want to sweeten your offer? And I go, nope, I'm going to stand on it. I didn't get it. So then I kept following it, because anytime a group is buying a property, that makes me feel good. Groups fall apart. Partners fall apart. I'm more worried about a guy like me that can close it without help. Those are the guys that close. So in this case, it went all the way down to the wire. I remember I just went to Hawaii, and I was still calling this agent every 3 or 4 days saying, hey, what's up? Did they close this deal? Did they close it? He said, Tom, this thing's solid, man. These guys ain't going nowhere. And then the next day he calls me. I was sitting on the sand in Hawaii, and he goes, Tom, he goes, they're stumbling. And so this is what he told me. It was a good thing I wrote that note, because, and this is why I say there's no rules, because this is what happened. This guy was at probably $1,350,000. I was at $1,001,000, I think. And so what happened was, this guy's stumbling, he's going to fall out. But they don't, normally the past 2 times before that, the guy would fall out and then they would start a whole new round of bidding. But because I wrote that note, and because I was so persistent calling every day, is he closing? Is he closing? Is he closing? They said, you know what? Maybe we'll go ahead and let him fall out, and let's see what Tom can do. And they said, so he goes, Tom, he goes, this is probably going to fall out. He goes, but they still don't like your offer. They go, will you sweeten your offer a little bit? And I go, okay. I said, I'll do another 50,000. So I made it a 1,150,000. And then I hung up, and then their board meeting was going to be 6 o'clock that night. And a couple hours went by, and I'm in Hawaii. It's like a 5-hour difference. And I start getting nervous, and they probably had taken it, but I was fighting myself. And I picked up the phone and I go, add another 25. So, because I was nervous. Now I'm bidding against myself. But hey, they had the meeting that night. He called me back. He said, Tom, that property is yours. Come close it. I said, it's a deal. And I couldn't wait to end my vacation, to be honest, because I wanted to close that deal. And I did. And it's been a wonderful property and, excellent location and everything else.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. That's interesting. Well, Tom, we've been going here, man, about 45 minutes. So
Okay.
we're gonna round this up. This first question and answer, Flippinar, a little different format than before. You got anything you wanna add? By the way, Tom's YouTube channel is Flip Anything USA. You can check out his content there at Flip Anything USA right here on YouTube, and you subscribe to his channel for sure. But anything you want to add, Tom?
Yeah, I do real quick, only because I know I've been talking about some kind of big deals, and a lot of people in the audience may not relate to that, and I understand that. Let me tell you, when I started, I was flipping and making $5,000, and I was broke. I didn't have any money, and I didn't have any credit. I'd already bought a building when I was 19 years old, but it was a owner finance deal. I tell that story on my YouTube channel, but I didn't have credit, and I didn't have I didn't have any backing, but after that, the fact that I knew I could make more money that's what got me so into it. And I started looking at every house, and I was looking for owner finance deals. And this is one of the best times in the world to have owner finance deals, because money pays so little at the bank. So you can get owner financing now easier than you could 20 years ago, because 20 years ago, you'd have to, interest was like 10%, or a little further back. And so now interest is so low. I mean, you get 1% on your money in the bank if you're lucky. So don't be afraid to offer people owner financing for them to carry a note, because if they plan on putting their money in the bank, they're not going to get any kind of return on it anyways. So the other thing is my channel is called Flip Anything. So, and I did this, Ty, as a way to kind of give myself a little stimulus, because you know how it is when you buy something. A lot of it just takes all the money you got in the bank, and now you're broke again. Now you're waiting for a buyer to buy it so you have cash again. So I buy and sell things too. I bought and sold a fire truck. I bought and sold forklifts. I bought and sold tools, anything. So even if you're there and you only have a couple $100, listen, you can find something for sale at a garage sale or somewhere near you, or find something that's a great deal that's worth hundreds or thousands, maybe, or a couple thousand. If you apply the same process that Ty does with his real estate, buy it cheap, sell it to somebody else that needs it. People need tools, people need things. But I say that because it's what I would do when I didn't have any real estate deals going. I still would buy and sell things. I still do. I got about a $4,000 solid oak roll top desk the other day. I got it for $200. I looked it up. It costs $4,600 for this same desk. It's an Amish oak something or other desk, giant desk. And I just thought, I'm going to buy this just so I can show my audience that I'm going to flip it. I bought it for $200. Maybe I'll sell it for $800 or $1,000. I don't know. But that's what I'd like to say is just, you can flip small stuff. It doesn't always have to be real estate. And I understand, what Ty's doing. Believe me, you want to graduate to the real estate, because that's the biggest money, because now you get to leverage a big asset that you have very little money. I mean, that's the beauty of real estate. And this is why we get rich so quick with real estate, is it is a very large asset that we get to leverage with very little money. We get to buy we get to buy real estate with like 10% down. Anything else you buy, you got to pay cash for it, right? Cars, everything, you got to pay cash. Only real estate is so humongous that you get to finance it with very little down. And that's why when people buy property from you as a wholesaler, they're going to get a loan, and most people don't care how much. They care how much a month. They don't say, how much is it? They go, what would my payments be? Because that's how 80% of the people are. And that's to your advantage. But you want to be a guy that says not how much a month. You want to go, how much? So you can know how much you're going to make when you flip it. But that's all. I don't want to get too long-winded on you.
No problem. Yeah, again, you can Find Tom at Flip Anything USA. That's his YouTube channel. I would encourage you to subscribe there. I look at his content all the time. He's on the other end of it. He's where I'm trying to get to as far as the commercial side of it. So, but again, I appreciate everyone that's come out. This probably will end up on the podcast. You check out all the Flip Man podcast at flipmanpodcast.com. Obviously, I have the 200 plus videos here, right here on YouTube on my channel, flipman.net. But again, we appreciate everyone that's come out tonight to this particular Flippinar. They're going to pretty much just end up being just question and answering, unless you all say different. But again, I didn't get to everyone tonight, but put your questions in the comments, and I'll be happy to follow up and answer them over the next couple of days. So again, Tom, we really appreciate you, man, for spending the time with us tonight. And any last words you want to share?
No, man, my pleasure. Thankful to be on, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk. And I tell you, just don't stop trying. The audience that's watching, man, be relentless. It's a numbers game. You have to keep trying, and eventually you hit. Just look at it like throwing a baseball through a football through a tire. Eventually, it's going to go right through. You're going to hit a bullseye. That's how it works. But you have to earn that shot to throw each time. And that's by just being relentless and never stop bird dogging and looking and asking and trying. You got to always try.
Really appreciate it, man. Again, thanks to everyone that came out tonight. And we'll see you on the flip side. Thanks, Tom.
All right. Thanks, Ty. Thank you.